Another day in the workshop. Another thing my wife would like me to build. She sees these things on the internet and gets the idea that she has to have them, which is okay. It gives me stuff to do. So what we're looking at for today is a simple Tic Tac Toe board of all things. And there's my professional drawing as always, giving me the idea what I'm going to be doing. So let's get to it. So I went ahead and cut the pieces for the actual board, I guess you'd call it. Random sizes, just way over what I need for the actual board itself. I wanted to show you something that I got this from Izzy Swan, and I think it's called a Richer board, but I'm not sure. Mine normally sets on the French cleat wall, and I use it there, but for this demonstration I'm bringing it over here. I got these makeshift clamps, just holding it up so it's more usable friendly for me. All right, let's show you how it works. So the first thing you do is you got to calculate how far up the boards are going to go, if you need any spacers, and we use any old wedges. This is a wedge clamping system, and pegs. Very simple, but it's very, very effective. First thing you do is you take your paper that's used to break the bond between the glue and the pieces that you're putting on the table. You don't want to glue them to this table. Obviously we need the yellow goop again. Okay, so basically same thing as you would do under any other glue up. Put your glue on, not to the excessive amount that I see a lot of guys use. Set the first one in. Notice the triangle has started. Put the next one in. A little squeeze out on the blue is what you're looking for, but you're not looking for a gallon of glue to be squeezed out every time you put something together. That's just not correct. It's a waste of glue. Okay. And lastly, we'll put the last one in. As you can see, I am putting glue on them. I'm not cheating here. And the paper only needs to go up as high as your last glue seam. Then you take these pegs and you put them in where they go, depending on which works. Here. In this case I do need a spacer, so we put a spacer in. Clamps, wedges if you will, in like so. We're already starting to get a little squeeze out here. A little hammer, tappy tap tap, squeeze out. That means you've got enough pressure. Make sure you're lined up here so that you're not all cattywampus. Again, the boards are oversized. I'm going to cut this straight, cut that straight. Good to go. Ritter board. No need for $50 clamps every time you want to glue up a project. Made a little progress here. We've got the board out of the clamping fixture. These aren't glued on yet. I'm just calculating which way I want to attach them. Nails, glue, etc. But I had a little break in the action because I've got a helper here now who doesn't understand that helpers aren't supposed to be in the way. He's never really in the way. This old Hector boy. #1 shop helper. You're a good boy. Okay, move. Move, move, move. Back to it, y'all.
So, if you look here, you can see that I've got my dust collector hooked in my portable sander, which is hooked to the flex line hose. That's outside. Back to our favorite thing.
So my concern with this glue up here, not glue up, nail up, connect up, whatever you want to call it, is expansion and contraction of the wood. If I glue these guys together, I don't want the expansion this way in the wood to break things loose or to do one of these numbers on me. So I think what I've decided is I'm going to put this together similarly to the way we would do a any table with breadboard ends. I'm just going to put a dab of glue right here and right here, clamp it in, and then I'll put a pin here, 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 and here, and I will glue along this edge, and I think we'll be okay. If not, again, it's just a game board. It's not going to be the end of the world if it warps or twists. So that's where we're at. Some yellow goop is in order. Like I said, just a little in the center. My wife and I joke because she sees me in these videos constantly wiping the glue off my hand on the bench like that. So I'm going to try to not let her laugh at me with this one. And I'm not going through any elaborate joinery here. This is all going to be butt joints, lap joints, and the like. I do want to make sure we're flush here though. And one other thing, you can see I've got this up on a couple of 2x4s. It just makes it easier to attach clamps, etc. When it's up out of the way, you can actually clamp without having to run your knuckles into the table. I'm no expert at everything, but these are little things that I do to make my life easier in the shop. If anything I tell you helps you all out, that's great. If you already knew it, good for you. I approach this the same way I do when I'm teaching people in HVAC. That's what I do for a real job, is I'm a commercial HVAC technician. And when I'm teaching those guys, I do the same thing. If you know it, great. If not, maybe you pick something up today that'll help you. So here's where we're at, y'all. After a lot of farting around and trying to figure this out, I've got these spacers that I'm going to put in here like so. It's another Jimmy DeResta move. Jimmy uses a lot of wood blocks for spacers and etc. Pretty sharp cat. Thanks, Jimmy. Going to run some glue on there and use some 5/8 pins to put them in place. Ton of glue on there. I don't want a ton of squeeze out. Paper towel. Not wiping it on the bench. This gives me my equal space that I'm looking for. Kind of coming in on an angle with that, so I'm not wiping the glue all over the top of this board. At least that's the idea. And we'll continue and put the crossbars in. It's always good to see every employee hard at work. I think we might have a slacker on our hands. You're doing a fine job, Hector. Outstanding. Okay, more spacer work for the crossbars. Little dab will do you. They don't work if you don't put them in. Compressor always seems to come on when I'm right in the middle of recording something. Two down, too many more to go. Okay folks, we have a board. Plenty of sanding to do, of course. I should have told you this is spalted, what I believe to be spalted chestnut. And this is our old friend cedar. I just love the way that pops when you put the finish to it. So we will sand it up, put some finish on it, and then on with those pesky numbers. Numbers? I mean letters. No? Yeah. Okay y'all, I decided to put 4 feet on this Tic Tac Toe board, and I wanted to show you how I made this bevel on these little feet. I'll take you over to the sander and show you that. So typically what I'll do is I'll set the angle on the miter gauge, clamp the gauge to the table. This table on these cheap sanders is hollow underneath, so you put a little board under here to make up this difference so that your miter gauge doesn't twist out of shape. Then we put on this, some people would call it a sacrificial fence. That's not really what it is. That allows me to get my hand in there and hold that against and run it in without hitting my fingers on that disc. So what I would do, let me bring you back over here where I can set this down and make it easier for me. So what I would do is I would run the piece into the sanding disc with the grain direction parallel first. Both sides, flip it over, do both sides. Then I would run the end grain in, and I would run the end grain in until the disc intersects the first bevel right here. It comes out pretty good. It's not an exact science, but it works in my shop. Hope it gives you guys some ideas maybe on how to do this for yourself. Alright, so here comes the fun part. I'm going to put a little finish on. I've been using this water-based polyurethane a lot lately. I wasn't a big fan of it up until recently. I just started using it. It dries fast, so that's kind of why I like it. But the next step in this process after this is cutting out those pesky letters. This is the point where if anybody wanted to donate a CNC machine to old Vernon Hinkle, he would appreciate it, because that would make it a whole lot easier than cutting them out on the pretend CNC over there. And by pretend I mean bandsaw. But we'll get through it. And as I said, this cedar really does light up when you put the finish to it. So cool. Like I said, anybody wants to send me a CNC machine, go ahead. So here it is, y'all. 2 coats of poly. Not too shabby. Just kind of a goofy project. Letters next.